Yeah, Scott told me about ringing the doorbell when we're ready.
Okay, awesome. And then the green light will...
You mean the red light?
No, the green light down here will come on. It'll start red, and then once it's green...
Oh, I think you said look for the... Good evening and welcome to the Human Rights and Relations Commission meeting for Tuesday, November 27th. Can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Bigby? Here. Commissioner Cashmore? Commissioner Fincess?
Here.
Commissioner Newell?
Here.
Commissioner Earhart?
Here.
Commissioner Seidman?
Here.
Commissioner Stanton?
Here.
Commissioner Winnick?
Here.
Chair Kingston?
Here.
Student Member Montati?
Here.
And Student Member Stang?
Here.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and move to approval of the meeting agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the meeting agenda? Member Stanton?
I would like to add an item, I suppose it would be under E, under reports and recommendations. And the item has to do with Minnesota statutes that limit local units of government from offering domestic partner benefits. And we took a stand on that a few years ago, and I think given new election results, et cetera, I think we need to revisit that issue.
Are there any other changes to the meeting agenda? All those in favor of the meeting agenda as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. We'll move to the adoption of the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the, oh, it's just a consent agenda. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we'll move to community comments. Actually, don't see anyone here from the community, so we'll go ahead and move on. I'll turn it over to Member Newell to introduce our guest.
Okay. Everyone, I'd like to introduce you to Carmit Bullman. We've met Carmit before when she's presented at the Human Rights and Relations Commission, but she's here tonight just to update us on the goings on of the Conflict Resolution Center of Minnesota. They've been doing some excellent work, and I'll let Carmit go forward.
Okay, and then... Can you get it? Yeah, slideshow. Yeah, there we go. That's okay. I'm ready. So good evening, everyone. I'm Carmit Bullman. I'm the Executive Director of the Conflict Resolution Center, and thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to talk a little bit about the work that we've been doing. Some of you look very familiar to me from past years. So I just wanted to remind everybody that we've changed our name. We were once the Minneapolis Mediation Program, and now we're the Conflict Resolution Center, meaning we certainly don't only help people in Minneapolis, and we don't do only mediation. So I just want to give you a rundown of what we do and how the work that we do do segues with the work that you're doing for the city of Edina. So what we do is we bring people together to find lasting and effective solutions to conflict, and really just about any area where there is conflict, we find ourselves in the Conflict Resolution Center, because we are probably the only group out there that believes that where there is conflict, there is opportunity, just like the Chinese symbol for danger and opportunity is one and the same. So we really believe that if we bring people together to have a facilitated dialogue regarding whatever issue they may have between them, that it is the most peaceful, respectful, equitable method of resolving conflict. So mediation in general, and that's kind of a general term for all of the work that we do, means there's an impartial party who brings people together to resolve their disputes in a setting that's mutually agreeable to both parties, so that they can come up with a solution that is based on their own self-determination, meaning a judge doesn't tell them what to do, another authority figure doesn't tell them what to do. This work happens without police intervention, without any sort of authority, that people, if given the opportunity in the right setting, can come up with their own solutions. So it's not arbitration, it's not counseling, it's not litigation. It is a process that is, in and of itself, empowering to people to come up with their own solutions. It helps people to clarify and articulate their differences, to find common ground, to learn some new skills for how to address future conflict, and to really acknowledge and strengthen relationships to allow people to move forward. So the key pieces are that it is voluntary, confidential, and respectful. And over the years, we have gotten a number of referrals from Edina, and hoping to continue to get referrals more and more from Edina. So we offer a bunch of different services, and this is both in Edina and in other cities in the metropolitan area. So a lot of the conflicts that come to us are neighbor kinds of conflicts, people who are having disagreements over boundary disputes, barking dogs, trash issues, problem properties. There are some issues that I've heard about in terms of neighbors who are hoarding a lot, and that causes some difficulty for other neighbors. Any kind of neighborhood issues. We've actually had some Edina disputes around people who live close to one another, and there's smoking going on in one person's unit, and it's going into somebody else's unit, and sort of people feeling that their own personal space is being encroached upon by another. Also, business-to-business mediation. So anything that involves money or people feeling like they have to file in small claims court, we say save your time, your money, and come to mediation and have a dialogue with the person that you're trying to get money from. Usually it turns out that it's not really about the money, or it's not only about the money. Usually it's about reputation, about respect, about partnership, about friendship. There are lots of issues that are underlying some of these business disputes that are out there. And if you can get people talking about some of these underlying issues, they find it a lot more effective to address the money part. In fact, we did a mediation not too long ago when the two former business partners were negotiating about the sale of the business. And after they got through all of their relationship issues, their communication issues, feelings of kind of mistrust and so on, one party offered the other party some money, and the other party said, "That's too much, give me less." So how often does that happen? So we really find that mediation is a very humane way of dealing with these kind of issues. Also, there may be relationship and family issues. Elder mediation is a big issue nowadays, with people making decisions about an older mom or dad wanting dignity and respect and independence, and kids in the family fighting about what should happen with older mom or dad. And older mom or dad are saying, "I don't want you all fighting about me. This is my life, my decision." So mediation is a way to get people to communicate with one another in a very informal and safe way. Because sometimes families have trouble communicating. So we have found that having a forum where people can talk through some of these difficult decisions is really, really effective. We also do divorce and unmarried parent kinds of issues. We also have found that a number of homeless teenagers and their families will come to us for mediation as a way to reconcile the family. So let's see, it's not moving forward. There we go. We also do mediation for large groups, so it might be condo associations or co-ops. We actually have mediated quite a bit for human rights commissions in other municipalities where there are issues on the commission itself, or the commissioners wanted to learn the skills of mediation to address some of the issues that are going on in their communities. So we do a lot of training in that regard as well. Large group conversations. So we now have other municipalities where there are issues like a mosque going up in a community. And there are some neighbors who say, we love that there's a mosque here, and other neighbors that are saying, we liked it better before. And so there's some misunderstanding and some communication that needs to happen. And so we bring people together in large group facilitated conversations to talk about what kind of a community do you want? What is a livable community? What's respectful? What does diversity look like in your community? As a way to really address some of those underlying issues, where one side might be claiming racism and the other side may be claiming, hey, this is just a change. Suddenly there's a lot more noise in my neighborhood. There's a lot more parking issues going on in the neighborhood. So they call upon the Conflict Resolution Center to get community dialogues going, and we specialize in that. Another area that we specialize in that segues well with the Human Rights Commission is we do a lot of discrimination mediation. So this might be age or race discrimination or accommodation for a disabled person in an employment setting, sometimes in an educational setting, where we are actually asked by a municipality or sometimes by the state to come in and do mediation so that parties can talk to each other, because usually there's a lot of hurt and misunderstanding when a person feels that they've been discriminated against. And so we are called upon to come in getting people talking about what their needs are, what their issues are, what their feelings are, and whether they can move beyond that. So those are some of the areas that segue well. You'll see our service areas. Edina is right there in our service area. We have traditionally had a small contract from Edina. We do have contracts with other cities as well. For example, Bloomington just entered into a kind of a retainer contract with us, which is basically we will do everything for them in terms of training staff, training school officials, doing large group facilitated dialogues. They're having us come in, do a youth leadership curriculum on conflict resolution and other youth leadership kinds of issues. So our services are really expanding, and we want to be better utilized by Edina, which I think is one of the reasons that Meg invited me here, because this is, we're not as utilized as we could be in Edina, and we would like to be. So you are one of our primary service areas. We are also in court, so if any Edina residents go to court for harassment cases or housing cases or children in need of protection or services, you'll find CRC mediators there to help keep the dialogue going between people and to avoid a costly hearing where one has to have attorneys and so on. So you'll see us in courts as well. And the referees tend to like us and feel that we reduce the strain on court and allow people, such as people who are about to be evicted or other dire straits, to have a say in their future in a way to prevent homelessness for them. So basically, we're about creating closer connections with the communities that we serve. We have a number of volunteers from Edina, and Meg is about to be one of those. We're going to train her to be a mediator. Yay, Meg. She's recruited a few of her other friends, and we have 150 volunteer mediators who donate over 9,000 hours each year. So our office is just 3.5 staff, and it's all wonderful volunteer mediators like Meg, who are well trained and well monitored by us, and then go out and mediate these disputes in their own communities. So setting up a mediation is pretty simple. just a phone call. Then we contact the other party by mail to discuss the possibility of mediating. And then if the other party agrees, we schedule the mediation. And while our office hours are generally 9 to 5, we conduct mediations on evenings and weekends as well. So we make ourselves as available as we possibly can for parties who want our services. And mediation will last anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours and usually results in a written settlement agreement. And as I mentioned earlier, we do a lot of community education and outreach, and we're really interested in getting into the Edina schools. I think I've mentioned that to this group before. Law enforcement often calls upon us to do restorative justice with first-time juvenile offenders instead of having kids go to Hennepin County Attorney's Office. We work with community organizations and businesses in dealing with conflict, whether that be conflict coaching or consulting, education, outreach, or mediation. So we serve over 6,000 people a year, and we do it because of all these wonderful volunteers that we have. And anybody interested in becoming a volunteer, I gave you all Meg gave you little postcards, invite you to a taste of mediation. We train about 4 or 5 times a year. Always happy to have more Edina residents serve as mediators for CRC. And then I've listed here some of our referral sources. So you are amongst our referral sources. Municipalities give us a lot of our business. I am going to be meeting with the new director of the Edina Resource Center in a few weeks. But any of you who have connections in Edina, please feel free to send us clients. And that's pretty much what I have to say. Are there any questions from any of you about anything you've heard?
Well, thank you very much for coming. Did anyone have any questions they wanted to ask? Perhaps you could maybe tell us a little bit. You mentioned that the number of Edina residents was increasing in your services, and I know I looked through the annual report. Do you have sort of a percentage increase or sort of how it's grown over the past few years?
You know, as we get funded, we do more and more outreach, and there's a direct correlation between the outreach that we do and the number of Edina residents that we serve. So, you know, I am really working hard with the new director of the Edina Resource Center to, you know, find out where are the places in Edina where I should be doing outreach. We have served as many as 90 Edina residents at any given time. You know, we're climbing back up to that amount again because, you know, it's important. And a lot of that is just really getting the word out. And I think that that was part of the reason that I was invited here, so that we are used as a resource. And it's not going to cost anything. Generally, people are asked to pay a fee, but if they can't afford the fee, it's waived. And we do get some funding from Edina, so as long as we get the funding from Edina, we will serve your residents and keep trying to build and serve, you know, more and more in a multitude of different capacities.
Great, thank you.
Would you talk a little bit more about the training that you offer in mediation? How long is it? What does it involve? What would the outcomes be for a person who participated?
Sure. Under Minnesota law, if you want to call yourself a qualified neutral, which is another way of saying a certified mediator, but in Minnesota we qualify neutrals, you need to go through a certified training, and we provide a certified training, and it's 30 hours of training by law. So the way we have it scheduled right now usually is a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then 2 weeks off to do observation, and another Friday. And it comes out to a little over 30 hours because it includes an observation period. And it's a very experiential training. It's a lot of partner work, role play work, small group work, some discussion, and conflict theory, communication skills, leadership training, listening, learning about cultural issues, cultural competency. So it's a very, very rich training full of just lots of nuggets. Whether you become a mediator or not, you find yourself being a better parent, a better spouse, a better friend, a better coworker. So just all this sort of basic stuff that, we wished we had learned in school, but we didn't. And so that's what the training entails. And then after that, we put mediators who are interested in an apprenticeship program where they come and they observe more mediation in our office. And then if they're interested, they become community mediators, volunteers. They get paired during their apprenticeship phase with a more experienced mediator. And then when they get the green light and they feel ready, they start mediating on their own. So it's a commitment to do 30 hours, we get that, but it's one of those life skills that, that you carry with you pretty much forever.
Thanks.
I think Meg has a training catalog too. We do have a training that Meg is doing in December, and then on our website we'll have the next one, I think, is in March. We just haven't quite picked the date in March yet.
Carmit, when you mentioned working with the schools,
Yes.
Can you just give a few examples of whether it's student on student or student teacher, teacher teacher?
Yes.
What sort of scenarios arise in that context?
Yeah, a lot of different services are provided in schools, and right now we're only working in public schools. Actually, we work in one private school that is a specialized school for young adults with autism. So otherwise we work in public schools with high schoolers or middle schoolers. And we either do mediation, and that might be students, usually student-student or groups of students with other groups of students. We tend not to mediate between staff and students, usually by district policy. But we also do peacekeeping circles, so that's a circle once a week where kids can come together and discuss topics that are of interest to them, where they get to dictate what the topics are. It's actually called a restorative justice healing circle, and kids want to talk about some pretty heavy subjects, and these are confidential circles where they may talk about issues of friendship or dating or abuse or goal setting. So that's a second service that we offer. And then we also do a curriculum which is called Words Work, which means it's a conflict resolution curriculum for kids ages anywhere between 12 and 18. We adapt the curriculum for different ages. And it's actually a leadership development curriculum as well, where they basically sign a peace pledge that they are willing to use their words instead of resorting to violence or other unproductive measures that youth often resort to. And we're actually going to be starting to do this kind of program in Bloomington, and we've been doing it across Minneapolis as well. So it's become very popular in addition to our mediation services. So the three, actually there's a fourth, training staff and teachers, because many staff and teachers also didn't learn basic mediation and conflict resolution skills as they were growing up or in schools. So 4 services: mediation, restorative justice circles, conflict resolution and leadership resolution training for students, and the same kind of training for staff and teachers. Yeah. Any other questions?
You mentioned you're trying to get into the Edina schools. Why haven't they accepted your services? Do they have their own services? Or
I'm not sure. I don't think this is only unique to Edina, but what happens is frequently we'll reach out to schools, and schools sound interested, and we set up meetings, and then schools are very busy places, and something happens where it doesn't continue. And we only have 3.5 staff, so we can't sort of keep after the school and say, you sounded interested, what's going on. I think it takes one champion in the school to say, I'm going to make this happen. And this is how it's happened in our Minneapolis schools. A champion emerges, and that person really makes sure that it happens. So I think we just haven't found our champion in any of the Edina schools yet. We get little nuggets of people who are interested, but then people's lives are so busy, and schools are, can be chaotic, busy places. So that's why I kind of put it out to those of you who have connections. For me at this point, it would be cold calling. I have connected people. I have connected to Edina school personnel in the past, and they're no longer here. So I don't have a champion. So that's really what I need to make it happen. So any ideas that any of you have, my email address is on that Taste of Mediation card that you all got. Or let Meg know if you know someone who really would be that champion and could see that these services would be well utilized in a school, then we'll take it from there. Thank you. Anything else? Yes.
How are you funded? Are you a nonprofit?
We are a
C3
nonprofit.
and-
Yeah, 401c3, funded less and less by the government, like every other nonprofit. So we do have some state, county, and municipality funding, and then a lot of private contributions, donations at this point, and then some fee-for-service work. So there are some entities that are able to pay us to come in and do conflict consulting, conflict assessment, teaching, mediation, team development. So it's at this point very diverse funding. Not enough, so we're still at 3.5 staff, but we have been able to diversify our funding over the years, to keep ourselves sustainable. And each year we grow a little bit. We've more than doubled our funding in the last 3 years, and each year we're growing. A lot of that growth comes from private individuals and fee-generating services.
Madam Chair, I have another question. Are you primarily working with government-related groups or institutions, or private sector as well, but not as much, or what?
It's so broad. I mean, the answer is yes to both. Some with government entities, some with private entities, some with just individuals who find us on the web, some people who just walk by. So, as I said earlier, wherever there's people, there's conflict, and whatever entity, whether it be one-on-one or neighbor or government. We actually have even done some international work in Haiti recently, so with government. So yeah, we're everywhere. We want to grow.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Carmit,
Yes.
just one last
Sure.
question, or could you describe some of the work you've done on civil discourse by training legislators and commissioners?
Yes. Yeah.
I think that the commission would be interested in hearing
Yeah, so we made an offer to elected officials on the state level, commissioners and legislators, to come to our trainings for free of charge. And so far, 4 legislators have taken us up, and 1 commissioner on our offer. And the offer remains. And, we really feel like we have a lot to teach everybody in terms of basic skills of collaboration, of listening, of win-win, interest-based negotiation. So all of the legislators who have gone through our trainings have gone, I'm taking this back to my fellow legislators. And, we really want this kind of dialogue, these kind of skills to be the dialogues that we have at the legislature. And we're actually trying to do some lobbying right now to start an Office of Dispute Resolution, an Office of Collaboration and Dispute Resolution. So it would be utilized as a way to help us grow mediation and alternative dispute resolution throughout the entire state, so that it could be used by government entities at all levels, as well as by private citizens, and that it's better funded and more visible as an alternative to expensive lawsuits and overworked courts and overworked police departments. So we are starting to do more of that kind of civil discourse work and work on a higher level at the legislative level.
Well, thank you very much,
Yeah.
Carmit. We really appreciate you coming in and giving us an update.
Thank you.
And answering some of the questions. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you all so much, and have a good evening.
Great. Well, we're going to turn the meeting over now to our year in review. We do this once a year. We started this last year, and I would like to thank all of the commissioners for an incredible year. We had a lot of activity that went on, a lot of great accomplishments, a lot of incredible wins. So thank you all for all of your hard work and dedication to everything that has gone in. We'll go ahead and get started. The first one we have is the Nazi persecution of homosexuals. This was a traveling exhibit that came from the National Holocaust Museum through the assistance of the Jewish Community Relations Council, and the Edina Human Rights and Relations Commission was one of 7 organizations who helped bring this in. It was from April 2nd to May 11th over at the University of Minnesota's West Bank campus, and I know a number of members were able to make it over there for the opening presentation. It was an incredible exhibit, something that I know I hadn't seen before, and a lot of ties back into some of the themes that we've been doing with equality within the GLBT community. So it was a pretty great, successful event that we helped co-sponsor. I will turn it over to Member Seidman to talk about the religious observance policy that was passed by the city.
Thank you, Jesse. In the spring, our commission and the Edina City Council approved the religious observance policy. As you can see, the purpose of the policy really was to make every effort we could not to hold public meetings during significant days of religious observance that may preclude any participation from the public. As you can see there, we have 8 holidays right now that we avoid having public meetings during. I will now Commissioner Bigby to discuss the conflict resolution free initiative.
Well, and before we start comments on that, I'd just like to say that in this last set of observances that you talked about, one of the results of that was that the Hindu community reached out to the city of Edina. A lot of the public commission members, various commissions, and the city council members and the city manager were invited to the Diwali celebration. My wife and I were able to be there, and it was truly an extraordinary educational learning experience, as well as just a great opportunity to meet people and see another observance. So I think there were a lot of people there, and this move was really a great opportunity, and I think will reap benefits for us in the future. The conflict-free initiative has really been spearheaded by our student members, and so I'm just going to say very little about this, except that over centuries, since the Industrial Revolution, maybe before, but certainly since then, we've seen that as organizations that are intent on making money do that in various ways, that there's always human labor involved, and sometimes that labor gets abused. And I think what our student members have done is to bring to light how some of that's occurring today in products that we use. And I'll just turn it over to you.
Well, I think Commissioner Bigby summed it up pretty well, but basically the conflict-free initiative was in regards to the conflict in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And in the Congo, there have been lots of conflicts regarding the minerals used in lots of our technology products like computers and cell phones in the West. And so the resolution was a recommendation that the City of Edina support companies that trace their supply chains and work to not include conflict minerals in their production.
And if I may, there is a wonderful article about the conflict-free resolution, especially about our own student member, Tara Motati, and I think we actually have a copy of it up there. So if you haven't, I encourage everyone to check out the November issue of the Edina magazine and this incredible article. Shed some more light. Thank you very much for all of your hard work and everything that you've done on this issue. Member Winnick, the Tom Moy Award.
Yes, the Tom Moy Award for Human Rights is named for a founder of the Edina Human Rights and Relations Commissioner and a member for 18 years, and it's the late Tom Moy. Mr. Oy was a Japanese-American ancestry, a soldier. His family had been relocated to a detention camp at the beginning of World War II. Sergeant Oy fought for the famous Nisei Regimental Combat Team throughout the war. After the war, he settled in Edina, raised his family, and worked for a local company. and as I mentioned, served for many years on this commission. The award is given annually in his memory. Last year's winner was Joyce Repia. Joyce is an employee of the city of Edina. It was the first time that the award had been given to a city employee. She's been with the city for over 25 years, currently as the city's associate planner. Joyce had volunteered in a number of schools over the years to share Edina's early history of segregation. This included an atmosphere of exclusion against minority groups and also included the creation of restrictive covenants in the country club district. Joyce led the efforts to revise and clarify the country club section of the city's website, not only with a recitation of the history and recounting of these discriminatory practices, but also by bridging the gap between misinformation, lack of information, and enlightenment. It so happens that this is the season for our seeking nominations for this next year's Tom Oy Award, and I'll speak more in detail about that process and where we are as we do the update of our work plan. But suffice it to say right now that applications are open and they will be received to January 15, and I'll go through the process later. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and we'll go ahead and turn it over to Member Stanton to talk about the efforts around Vote No and the marriage amendment.
Well, members, I've got great news. As you know, back in February, this commission developed a resolution opposing the constitutional amendment on marriage and recommended it to the city council. Our city council took what I think was a very courageous stand on the issue at the time and passed the resolution unanimously. We were the fourth city behind Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Duluth to adopt such a resolution. I think that showed real leadership to again be the first suburban community to take a stand on this issue. And the reason why I say it was courageous is because at the time that the council passed this resolution, the polls showed that there was a lot more supporters than there were opponents of it. And when you consider that several of these people were up for election, that takes real courage to stand up and do the right thing on an occasion like that. And I think their leadership certainly paid off. It got publicity in the local paper. It started discussions. This was followed up by our efforts for publicity, which got into some of the media, and some of the media did their own editorials against the resolution. And I'm happy to say that Edina voted down the amendment by a margin of almost 2-1. 34% supported the amendment in Edina. That was far more opposition to the amendment than statewide, although it did get defeated statewide by 46-point-something%. Every single precinct in Edina voted against the amendment. Every single precinct voted it down by a greater margin than it was voted down statewide. If you look in Hennepin County, there's 48 communities in Hennepin County. Edina had the fifth lowest vote in favor of the amendment. The only communities that voted more strongly against the amendment were St. Louis, Minneapolis, St. Louis Park, Golden Valley, Medicine Lake. I don't even know where that is. It's a very teeny little community because it didn't have many votes, and Edina. So I think Edina can be pretty proud of itself in terms of, again, establishing the fact that it's a welcoming and inclusive community. And it isn't just the city leaders that spoke this time, it was the populace, and they spoke pretty strongly. So I think a lot of people on this commission I know did a lot of very hard work on this amendment, and I'm glad to, I did pass out a handout with a map showing the precincts in Edina if you're interested in how your neighbors voted in your neighborhood. But the general pattern of the vote was that the strongest opposition was in the northeast corner, and as you moved south and west, there was more support, but never the lowest precinct, I think, was this area right here in Edina, which 20% supported the amendment, and the highest was like 46%. So, which was the southwest corner of the city. So, just a terrific showing of tolerance by our community, and I think we should be proud of that.
A lot of hard work and effort went into defeating that amendment, and especially to you, Russ, for all your hard work and writing on the editorial and rewriting and getting that out. It was fairly well received and certainly helped bring the community together to defeat this. So thank you very much.
Right. Thanks.
And now we'll go to voter ID.
You had the numbers.
Okay. Well, again, the voter ID was defeated statewide. Incidentally, on the marriage amendment, before I get off it, I don't know if everyone realizes this, but 32 states in a row had passed the marriage amendment. Minnesota was the first to defeat it in our country's history, and I think we hit a milestone, a turning point. Voter ID was also voted down, and that one, I think, was just amazing what happened. When we passed our opposition to it early on, the polls were showing 80% in favor of the voter ID amendment, but as people became more educated through the public discussion of it, it turned, and as a result, it actually was defeated by a bigger margin than the marriage amendment, surprisingly statewide. Not by much, but by a little. The interesting thing is the voting pattern is very different on the two amendments. It was not people voting no. There were a lot of switch. In fact, a lot of the opposition to the voter ID came from rural areas, which you did not find much support for the marriage, or much opposition to the marriage amendment in some rural areas. So it was, Edina did vote down the voter ID. However, about 8% more people voted for the voter ID amendment than voted for the marriage amendment. Still, it was a pretty substantial vote against it. So.
All right, well, thank you again to everyone for all their hard work on both of these amendments. It was great to see those defeated. We'll now turn it over to Member Seidman to discuss Days of Remembrance.
So as you know, this was the second year in a row that we celebrated the Days of Remembrance. I'm happy that we had 4 videos on Channel 16 that was showing for about a month. One of those videos was a Holocaust survivor talking about his experiences. Fred Barron also, I believe his video was also up there. So I'm happy that after a second year, we had information at City Hall for a week during the national celebration. We had videos that were out there. I think people are getting to understand the Days of Remembrance and to remember the 17 million people that were killed during the Holocaust. So I'm just glad that we recognized it and hope that we continue.
Thank you. And one of the things for Days of Remembrance with the proclamation that was signed this year, unlike the previous year, is the City of Edina is going to automatically recognize Days of Remembrance and honor it, as opposed to having to come forward every year with a proclamation. We can certainly do that, but it's something that the community has taken on, and the city has said, yep, we're going to honor this every year, which I think is great. So we'll look forward to some new events coming in 2013. And with that, I will turn it over for the Anti-Bullying Edina Reads program.
Thank you, Commissioner and Chair Kingston. Well, this is our continuation of focusing on bullying now for several years. Previously, we've held an Edina citywide Reflections on Bullying event, which was well attended and held at the Edina High School. In addition to that, we passed a city resolution to stand up for character and down to bullying. Our next event will be held April 22nd from 7 to 8:30 at the Fireside Room in the Edina Senior Center. And we're teaming up with the Edina Reads Foundation that will have other sponsors that include the Friends of the Edina Library, the Edina Community Foundation, the Edina Senior Center, Friends of the Hennepin County Library, the high school, the Edina Community Education, and the Edina Resource Center. The book that we've chosen will be led and facilitated by Betsy Kussler, who is from the Edina High School, and she is well known for leading very well thought out discussions of books previously for Edina Reads. I just want to take a few minutes to let you to share a little review from the book. We chose this book because it addresses youth bullying, but it goes beyond youth bullying to look at how bullying can emerge and affect an entire community and different aspects of neighborhoods and a person's adult life. One of the reviewers, Renee Fountain, said, "This is a straightforward prose and pulls no punches as it dredges up the painful memories of growing up, fitting in, and doing the right thing. Through discussion, reflection, and attrition, Matthew Duffy confronts years of guilt for the kid he was, takes responsibility for the kid he is raising, and learns to appreciate that sometimes through tragedy, a stronger and better self can emerge." We will be purchasing books for the, there will be books available at the Edina Community Library as well as the high school. And right now the commission is all set. We all have our copies of our books right here. Hold them up, guys. Here we are. I don't know if we can cut to our council, but we have them. And one of our student commissioners, Stang, is going to talk about what's going to happen at the high school. Thank you.
Sure. So there's a couple different ways that we can spread awareness and promote this event in our schools with the staff, not only the staff, but also the students. So first, there are going to be books available in the library for anyone to check out. There's also a English teacher that teaches 10th grade English that told the rest of their English team about the book, and they're excited to not only read it, but to also come to the event, and it coincides nicely with their unit called Social Constructions of Race and Gender. So they're excited about that and also encouraging their students to read it and come and participate in the event. Along with that, there are a couple groups at the high school that I think would like to be notified and involved with the event and reading and the conversation. There is a book club that meets monthly, I believe monthly, and so we will tell them about that, see if they are willing to hop on board. There's also an equity-based group in the high school called Dare to Be Real that loves this kind of opportunity to read a text by an outside source and have conversations, and even if it just stays in that group, I'm sure they will pass on their thoughts to whoever they come in contact with. There's also an option for seniors. This year, the seniors do not meet the hour requirement since the change last year and have to complete some outside hours of school online. And I'm thinking of bringing this to our coordinator of that, having this book be an option so they can acquire hours for reading it and then also for attending the event. And lastly, we have our great serving youth office in the school, and if we'll touch base with some of the groups in there and see if they'd be willing to participate and come to the event.
This sounds like an incredible event and a wonderful book to read, and I'm looking forward to getting through this and participating in the dialogue in April. We'll now turn it over to the Bias Hate Crime Response Plan.
Thank you. The city has established a bias hate crime response and prevention plan to be administered by this commission. The purpose being to establish a procedure in advance for a timely and appropriate local response should there be a bias hate crime committed in Edina. I'm pleased to report that this year to date there has not been. In each of the prior 2 years, there was one such crime reported. What we have done is established a network of community resources that can be activated if needed, and we on this commission are expected to provide and coordinate support with respect to those activities, including support to victims and leadership in the community for prevention of such crimes through education and collaborative community action. It's in this connection that I, as the representative charged with administering the plan, have met with the chief of police, have made one presentation recently before the Edina Community Council describing the purposes of the plan, and likewise will recommend that next year we expand our revision of the plan and review of the plan to include the city manager's office, since I think it's about time now that his feet are firmly planted that we bring him into the review process. As I say, this is a plan that's ready, and hopefully it won't be needed to be implemented.
Great, thank you very much. And again, congratulations and many thanks to everyone for all their hard work this past year. A lot of activity and a lot of hours went into what I thought was a very successful year of accomplishments. Moving on to the rest of the agenda, appointment of nominating committee. I'll turn it back over to Member Winnick.
Well, what we've done in the past is my predecessor, administrative chair, has established a process which now has been streamlined and contained in our bylaws. The bylaws indicate that officers for the next year shall be recommended by a nominating committee, and of course they can also be nominated from the floor. The two officers that we are required to elect are chair and vice chair. The officers are elected for 1-year terms in February of each year and serve until their successors have been elected, and they can only serve for a period not more than 2 consecutive years. The recommendation, as last year, is that the administrative chair contact each member of the commission during the month of December to identify whether or not he or she has an interest in becoming an officer for the following year. I would recommend that we continue to do that, and that recommendation of a slate of candidates, if you will, would be then brought forward to the January meeting for consideration. Self-nominations or nominations by others can also be made at that time. And Madam Chair, I will defer to you if the chair wishes to conduct the election, or if you would wish the administrative chair to conduct the election, either way.
The administrative chair has historically conducted the election unless for some reason the administrative chair is running for office, then I will certainly do it, since I will not be running for office in February. So if you're interested in becoming chair, let Member Winnick know.
Okay. One caveat, a change this year that has been brought to our attention by the city attorney, and that is that the election at the February meeting will again be by written ballot, but in this instance, we're informed that we're required that the ballot be signed by each member voting. And all voting must be done by members present in person. Obviously, no proxies permitted. That's my report.
Any questions from any of the members on the process for this year?
Why is it a signed ballot? There used to be a tradition in this country of secret voting, a secret ballots. Is there a particular reason?
I'm going to defer to the city manager, who is sitting to your right, and let him inform us all.
Madam Chair and members of the Commission, I did have a chance to talk with the city attorney today and ask that very question. It's his opinion that that is an open public vote. It's not a matter that can be done in a closed session. So it does have to have an there's an open records aspect of it where there does have to be, there's a public right to know who proposed what and who voted for whom.
Okay.
And so I think there has been a custom in the past of not just this commission but other commissions as well selecting their leadership like that. It's certainly less awkward, and I think makes for better feelings for everyone. But unfortunately, in the eyes of our legal counsel, we don't have the ability to offer that. So that's what we would like you to do.
Thank you. Any other information regarding the nominating committee appointment process or any questions? If not, we'll move on to the general work plan updates. Census research funding recommendation. Okay. Anti-bullying event and education. Do we have any other update other than the Edina Reads program?
No, at this time we have no other news to report, and the Edina Reads is well underway and being planned. Thank you.
If I might comment, I think it's an ideal opportunity, since we're at an open forum this evening, just to let the community know that we are interested in ideas from them about how we might further bring light on this issue, especially in our younger population, but also in populations that might not always be as obvious. We know bullying experience in the workplace, we have bullying experience in families, and we want to be sensitive to that. We want, as people have said already, our community to be welcoming, safe for everyone. So the community out there, we'd like to have your ideas and would sure welcome that.
Wonderful. Thank you. Marriage amendment. Do you have any other update, or is this one will probably be taking off? Or
Yes, it seems when some of these issues get on the work plan, they never come off. But
they will in 2013 unless it comes back.
But this is one we can cross off. It's done. It's complete. It was a success, and we don't have to visit it again.
The same with voter ID?
It's the same with voter ID, the next item.
Wonderful. Great. Tom Oy Award, any additional updates?
Yes, since we're in the season for seeking nominations, let me share with the Commission what's been done thus far in terms of the communication plan implementation. With great service by Jan Seidman, and thank you, Jan, we have developed not only a press release, which has been delivered to the communications officer in the city for publication in the various local media, but in addition, a mailing piece has been designed, and through the outstanding efforts, Scott, of the city manager's intern, Ari Klugman, in one day, Ari sent out over 50 letters to civic leaders, local service organizations, and others on the city mailing list and the school district mailing list, in addition to sending 15 or so emails to city departments and officers. We are in the process of continuing to expand our network, and I would request once again that each member of the commission put his or her thinking cap on and think of potential nominees who they may wish to nominate, or who other nominators that you may wish to suggest, either Jan or myself, so that we can go forward with those. Jan and I will make a dozen or so phone calls to members of the mailing list to again remind them of it, this being a busy time of the year, and likewise to remind everyone that applications must be received by January 15, so that we can then make the appropriate reviews and selections. The award will be presented in April at the annual volunteer recognition reception at the Warren Hyde Clubhouse at Braemar. So for that reason, we want to make certain that we have adequate time to think it through and consider nominations. Information on is available on the city's website, and all one has to do is click on the City of Edina website's tab for boards and commissions, and go from boards and commissions to the Human Rights and Relations Commission, and go from there to the Tom Moy Award. All information is contained, including an application form. And I believe the application form is in format to be submitted online. And if not online, please photocopy it and submit it by mail so it's received by the 15th at City Hall. Any questions, call Ari or call me. That information is likewise available as far as our contact information on the website. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and we're looking forward to getting a number of nominations this year. So, we have a new item on the agenda that we approved, and I apologize, Member Stanton, because when you first mentioned it to me, it wasn't ringing a bell, and now that I look at it, I know exactly what you're talking about. So I will turn this over to you to discuss with the group.
Thank you. I passed out a copy of a resolution that this commission recommended a number of years ago, and the City Council passed. And it's kind of a follow-up on the vote on the marriage amendment and, what happened this past election. But to give you a little history behind this, the City of Minneapolis, more than a decade ago, had domestic partner benefits for city employees. And that was challenged in court, and that city ordinance was struck down because there was a state statute that gave cities the authority to offer health insurance to its employees. And that statute defined, you can see the section at the bottom of the first page of what I passed out. That section, which is Minnesota Statutes 471.61, defined a dependent for health insurance benefits for local government employees. It defined a benefit shall mean a spouse or a minor unmarried child under the age of 18 years and dependent students under 25 years actually dependent upon the employee. And so that was the basis for striking down the domestic partner legislation in Minneapolis, and which prohibited other cities from adopting domestic partner benefits that included insurance benefits. Back in 2008, the legislature tried to change this statute, and a copy of the bill is the last page of the handout. And they tried to change the bill to by adding a phrase at the end that said, a clause at the end that said, "and others, a dependent shall mean children under the age of 25 years, and others as defined by governmental units at their discretion," which in effect allowed cities to define dependents the way they chose. That legislation, which was had bipartisan authorship in both the House and the Senate. One of the authors was then Republican Representative Ron Earhart. It passed overwhelmingly in both the House and the Senate, but Governor Pawlenty vetoed the legislation. And so that's what precipitated a few years ago us adopting this resolution and the City Council adopting this resolution, asking the legislature to change the law. Last session, the legislation was reintroduced, but it never went anywhere. There was just we had a pretty strong conservative legislature, and it just went nowhere. It ran into a brick wall. I think the political atmosphere has changed remarkably. I think we have a legislature, and well, not to mention the populace, the view of the populace. I noticed that back in September when they did a poll on the marriage amendment, they also included a question on domestic partnerships, and like 80% of the public supports legislation for equal domestic partner benefits. I mean, the public has changed greatly on this. And so I think the atmosphere is terrific right now for reasserting this language. This section of law is going to have to be changed anyhow because the federal Obamacare, for lack of a better word, now requires coverage of dependents up to 26, and so the state law is in conflict with federal law. So it's going to have to be revisited this coming session, and I think as long as they are revisiting this section of the statute, I would like to see them change it so that local units such as the city of Edina could offer truly equal benefits, domestic partner benefits. It's permissive legislation. It doesn't require any unit of government to do anything if they don't want to, but it does empower them to be able to define their insurance policies the way they see fit in terms of dependents. So I guess I'm bringing this before you to see if you want to reconsider. And I don't know the city council did pass this a couple years ago. If we advocate this, do we have to go back to them and ask them to reaffirm it, or can we just, I was thinking inviting at one of our next meetings, inviting our local legislators in and talking to them about pushing this forward.
The resolution was passed, if I'm not mistaken, you said was now in conflict with some of the regulations for Obamacare?
No, the
state.
Minnesota statute
Okay.
is currently in conflict with Obamacare. So, Obamacare overrules it.
Yeah. Okay.
But it overrules the parts at least dealing with the age, up to 26. But they are going to, I'm sure, be revisiting this just to bring our state statutes into conformity with federal statutes. And so I guess I would like to know if other commission members think we should move forward and either ask the council again to request this legislation or simply do it on our own. How do people feel?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'll defer to the city manager on this, but my recollection is that was a prior city council, and that it would have to be reconsidered by the current council.
That would be
again.
my advice to you, that
Okay.
it is a new group, and but it would also be my advice that time is of the essence. There's a lot of legislative planning going on right now, and the council is going to be considering its own, some priorities of its own for a legislative agenda as well.
Sure. Well, if time is of the essence and we want to take it before the council, I guess would a motion be in order to repass this resolution and recommend it to the council?
Madam Chair?
Recommend this resolution to the council. The only thing I would change is it would no longer be Minnesota Statutes 2009. It would be Minnesota Statutes 2012.
Okay. Ari, did you have a comment?
Inside the subdivision 1A, it still says the 25 years. So until we know that, I don't know if we'd want to pass the same language that they're going to be changing.
Yes.
I'm sure there'll be other bills that'll be introduced that change the age. It seems to me that the only section that we're concerned about right now would be the ability to offer domestic partners. The other part dealing with conforming, I guarantee you there'll be legislation introduced that'll fix that.
Just a question for clarification. Russ, if you compare the language that you proposed on the front page, that still does include minor unmarried children under the age of 18, whereas in the prior House bill that you attached at the end that was vetoed by Governor Pawlenty, that one had that language scratched out and had 25. So would you want to conform it?
Well, it's somewhat of a dilemma. It would make sense to conform it to what it says in the bill. However, that gets us into a secondary issue of at what age do you cover children? I'm willing to go either way, but it's.
Well, if we have the opportunity to go back to the city council, should we not take the time to make it so that it is in line with the new age requirement?
Sure.
Okay.
Except it shouldn't be 25,
It should be 26.
it should be 26.
And
Under
then
the age of
taking out the,
26.
and you're asking to take out the word minor and then dependent students under the age of 25. So you want it to look, the page that has 1097 at the top right, you want it to look like that,
Yeah.
but
So-
changing it to 26.
Under the age 26, correct.
Under the-
So what the resolution that we'd recommend would read is the whereases and be resolved would be the same. And then where it says as follows, instead of the language that's there, we would insert the language that's on the back page, starting on line 1.6.
Correct, except for the last word on line 1.10
Would be changed to
to
26.
26.
1.9.
Does everyone follow that?
And then it would include the deletion on
1.9. Thank you.
1.9, and then 26 on 1.9, and deletions in 1.10 and 1.11.
Mhm.
Okay.
Is
Are there
everyone
other
follow?
comments?
I-
Otherwise, did you want to make a,
I
does someone
I
want to
would
make a
move that we
motion?
recommend that the city council adopt this resolution or a similar resolution.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. What would be the next steps for trying to get this in front of the city council, especially since we do not meet until January as a commission?
It's probably just production of their minutes and then calendaring it for them.
Okay.
It's probably not going to calendar for the December 4th council meeting, but December 18th is very likely.
Russ, are you available for part of that?
I'll be
Okay.
available for it.
Okay. Are there other members who are available to be at that meeting on December 18th? It's always good to try and have as many members there for support of the resolution, even if it's sometimes a couple-minute discussion. Sometimes it's longer. Okay, wonderful. Great. Thank you. Moving on to correspondence and petitions. I'm not aware of any correspondence or petitions that have been received. Ari, were there any? Okay.
Airport noise.
I'm sorry?
Just on aviation noise, that's the only one we're getting.
You know, you have an open mic if you'd like to talk about that and the impact on human rights with that
I'll
concept.
pass, thank you.
Okay, moving on. Chair and commission member comments. Are there any other comments from commission members other than what we've just talked about this evening? Yes.
I would just like to put in a final plug for the Thinking's Man Bully and urge you to pick up a copy at our local library, or if you're a student in our school. The commission will be donating the books that we have in front of us once they're read to add additional copies into the collection. And remember, that date is April 22nd. It's a Monday, 7 p.m. at the Edina Senior Center. Thanks so much.
Great, thank you. Any other comments?
Madam Chair, and members of the commission, this will be my last meeting with you as your staff liaison. Our HR director, Lisa Schaefer, will be returning to limited duty next week, and she'll be assuming full duty in January, and she'll be rejoining the commission as your staff liaison. I've enjoyed my brief stint and have appreciated to get to know you and your body of work a little bit better. So thanks for that.
Well, thank you very much for stepping in. We've enjoyed having you here, and we look forward to Lisa coming back and joining our team. Any other commission member comments? Just a reminder then that there is no meeting in December. We are off until January, and our January meeting is on the, what, does anyone know the date? I don't have it. Should pull out my calendar. Do you?
It's on the 22nd.
The 22nd of January? Okay. So I will see everyone then. Have a wonderful, oh, yes, Ari?
I just wanted to congratulate Earhart on his re-election, or election.
Oh, thank you.
We look forward to what you're going to do. Not sure, not sure. Well, everyone have a safe and wonderful couple of months off and holiday season with your family. With that being said, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. Good evening. Have a wonderful night.
Has to take home.
Yes.